Just thought I'll do a quick react to Mr. James O'Brien here. Caveat before I start, I don't rate James O'Brien from a leftist perspective, mainly due to his position on Corbyn and the last Labour attempt at a government, his support for the anti-Semitism smears, and his demonisation of Corbyn to a ludicrous degree. Like, James O'Brien may be right on Brexit, and he might be right on the damage the Tory government is doing. However, he never accepts his culpability in bringing that Tory government to power. So I just thought I'd get that out of the way before the reaction. And he's got some absolute lemon here called Nick ringing in to basically say, let's arrest Republicans.
Nick's in Brentwood. Nick, what would you like to say?
Good morning. I'm not chilled by it at all, because if he was holding up a blank piece of paper and the police officer said, if you write, this is not my king, or you're not my king, how did he know that was going to be written on that piece of paper? This guy, the barrister, must have goaded that police officer into saying, this is what I'm going to say, this is what I'm going to write.
Classic bootlicker. Without even knowing the full context, like he openly admits, he's straight away saying, "Oh no, he must have goaded the police officer. He must have done it. He can't, you know, he must be at fault. The police can't be at fault. The protester must be at fault." Classic bootlicker mindset.
Why is it goading?
Well, what did he say to? How did the police officer know what he was going to write then?
Well, he would have told him, but I don't understand why goad is the word.
Yeah, he told him.
Yes.
No, so he said to the police officer,
"What happens if I write? What happens if
I?
I write 'not my king' on this piece of paper?" Because I've seen other people in Britain being arrested for doing that. That's what he would have said. Words to that effect.
Well, we don't know what he did say.
Well, we kind of do, because he's provided a fairly comprehensive account, and you can hear the aftermath of when he said other people have been. Well, hang on, mate. If you're not across the facts, then let me help you out. Other people have been arrested for writing "not my king" on a piece of paper. What would happen to me if I did so here, officer?
He'd be arrested, and rightly so.
For what?
The police.
For what?
The police
Nick?
have got a very difficult.
So what Nick is unable to vocalise here is the reason that guy should be arrested, from Nick's perspective, is because Nick doesn't agree with him. That's literally it. That's the beginning and end of his argument. Now, he can't admit that openly, because then that'd be admitting he's anti-democratic, which he doesn't want to be painted as being a right-winger. They believe that they are the patriots and the protectors of democracy, even when they're promoting monarchy. It's some smooth brain thinking, but that's the reality.
Job to do. Policing.
All right, mate.
is the most difficult job in the
Arrested
world.
for what?
Listen.
No. Arrested for what?
Let me finish.
No, of course I won't let you finish. You're just going off on a pre-prepared nonsense.
For potentially causing unrest.
Right, what's the unrest?
The police are trying to keep the situation calm.
So what if someone
And that's
held
what
up a
they were
sign
doing.
saying
They were
long...
doing their job.
If someone held up a
They were
sign
doing their
saying...
job.
Nick, mate, are you ready?
Yep.
Yeah. What if someone held up a sign saying "Long live the King" at a gathering where there were known to be a lot of Republicans? Would that be an arrestable offence?
No, that wouldn't cause trouble at all.
Well, it would, because all of these people are Republicans.
What about...
No.
You see, Nick can't even conceive that people don't agree with his perspective. So literally it's like, oh no, that wouldn't cause trouble, even though it would, because it's just the flip coin of his perspective, rather than people being offended at "not my king," monarchists. It's Republicans being offended at someone saying "long live the king." It's just the reverse. So of course, if offence is the yardstick by which we're measuring if you're going to get arrested or not, then yeah, they should be arrested too. But unfortunately, Nick can't see that, because his brain's too smooth, and he just basically wants people who don't agree with him to be subject to the law. It's proto-fascist, but he's too stupid to understand what those terms mean.
No, you have to answer my question, Nick. Should he be arrested, because he could offend a lot of people in that crowd?
No, he shouldn't.
Why
No,
not? Because there's a lot of offended people there, Nick.
No, we've got to use our common sense.
Right, so
And
you arrest
we've
someone
got
for...
to-
Hang on, I need to be clear on where your common sense has led you. So here's a group of people who are offended by a sign, and that person holding that sign should be offended. And here's another group of people who may be offended by a sign, but the person holding that sign shouldn't be offended. Just talk me through that brand of common sense.
That group of people who are anti-royalists, and if he was going to hold up a sign saying "Long live the king,"
Yes.
they should Let them be pushed aside. Anti-royalists, they're protected.
No, you can't push them aside because they're offended. We're arresting people for causing offence, Nick. We're arresting people for causing offence. You can't have different laws for different signs.
No, this is very exceptional circumstances.
Okay, it's not, because I've got another story you might like. Tell me how you feel about this one.
No,
Russian police.
Stick with this story.
Well, we can stick with this story if you want, but it's not. You're not really.
Let's stick with this one for a minute because that's what we're talking about.
Okay, then. So
there's very exceptional circumstances.
Well, it's not because it happened 3 times yesterday, so it's not exceptional.
The Queen didn't die 3 times. That's what I'm saying.
No, we're talking about people holding up a sign saying "Not my king."
Yeah, let them be taken away.
But the person causing offence with a different sign shouldn't be taken away.
What do you think is going to happen to those people? Nothing.
So now he's moved the yardstick. They should be arrested because if they're arrested, nothing's going to happen to them. So it's not a big deal that they're arrested, but they should still be arrested because I don't agree with them effectively. Honestly, I don't understand how people like this get through life, but the reality shelters them. Not the reality, sorry. The shared delusion that is this capitalist system slowly crumbling shelters them from reality. So they're able to think these mutually exclusive thoughts at the same time.
Well, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen to this guy? What do you think is going to happen to this guy?
Which guy?
The guy who got arrested.
What, the barrister?
Well, the guy who would have been arrested if he'd written not. We can't talk about the people who were actually arrested.
So he didn't get arrested. He didn't get arrested, did he?
No, we know that he didn't get arrested because he didn't write on the piece of paper. He said, I've got work tomorrow and I can't afford to take the time off.
Exactly. But he was going to...
What do you mean exactly?
What are you going to do?
Go on, Nick.
We've got a police force.
Yes.
We've got a police force and we don't allow them to police. And you're aiding.
And what does Nick mean by that? We don't allow them to police. Specifically. What he means is we don't allow them to basically abuse people who I don't like, who I don't agree with. We don't allow the police to police, in inverted commas, them. It's complete proto-fascist mindset. That laws only apply to specific groups. They don't apply to the in-group, only to the out-group, and that's who they should be enforced on. It's just Nick hasn't got to the point where he's going to say, explicitly who he sees as the out-group. In this case, it's Republicans, but I'm sure it's a wider spectrum of people than just that.
We don't allow them to police a man. No. So hang on, Nick.
No, we don't, because you're on the radio and saying they did wrong.
No.
And you're broadcasting this across the nation.
But they did.
Those police are wrong.
Are you? Don't take this question the wrong way.
You're whipping up the trouble. Not the guy holding the piece of paper. You are.
No, you are.
You're causing more trouble.
No, yes. You are.
Man, it's literally so infantile that it devolves into an actual childish argument of but you. And fair play to James in this stage. I wouldn't have gone down that route myself in terms of deconstructing the argument. But after a certain point, when you're arguing with someone who's this dense, what is the point in taking it seriously? When he's going to accuse you of stirring up trouble because you're asking him questions regarding his position on arresting people. And basically what Nick wants is don't question the police, don't question the Queen. Just go along with the norm, what he defines as normal. It's jokes. Absolute jokes.
You want people to be arrested for carrying a little sign around. You want people to be arrested for the possession of paper.
I'd arrest you. If I was the police, I'd be arresting you for whipping up trouble, causing trouble in the nation.
And that makes you a fascist.
That's all I've got to say to you. That's all I've got to say to you.
Where do you stand on freedom of speech, Nick?
No, there should be a few more rules, because it's all leading the wrong way. Everything is.
And what are those rules? The rules Nick wants are, the rules should be people who disagree with me and what I think is correct should be subject to police action. It's fascist, as James has correctly labelled there. But like I said at the very start, the growth of this type of mindset was effectively enabled by people like James, and James himself. Still, when you're right, you're right.
What should people
We've got to allow our police.
What should people be allowed to say? What should people who don't believe in a monarchy be allowed to say about it in public?
Not much.
Well, tell me where the parameters would be under your glorious rule. Under your glorious rule, Nick. I
mean, it sounds like Nick wants to go back to an absolute monarchy rather than constitutional monarchy. Although I doubt he could define the difference between the two. He's literally saying here, no, we need more rules to protect the monarchy. And I'd be arresting the media for speaking out, for asking questions. But I'm the patriot, and I'm pro-democracy. That's what he'll think in his head. It's just, the human mind is an amazing thing, how it can be twisted into these positions that don't make any logical sense, but the people can still hold them and believe them.
Your glorious rule, someone who doesn't believe in monarchies, who doesn't think that because somebody's ancestor won a war or stole a bunch of money and ended up on a throne, we shouldn't be doing that in the 21st century.
Oh, that's how the monarchy got there, was it? They stole a bunch of money.
Well, if you go back...
How else do kings get their wealth? Is it gifted to them by the population they overrule? Or is it taken through violence? Wasn't the feudal system entirely based upon violence? I mean, the modern capitalist system is as well, but feudal systems were explicitly based upon violence. Being a serf, you're there to serve the land as long as your lord protects you from violence. Now, what they don't write is kind of like a mafia thing, that they also are protecting you from their own violence that they're going to inflict if you don't serve the land. But yeah, that's what feudalism was. But to these doofuses, these serf-brained idiots, these fucking melts, that's the way that we should be. That we should all just be bowing and scraping because the royalty can do no wrong. It's insane that this is 2022 and there are still people like this.